Welcome back to Making Records with Eric Valentine. That's me. So this is the results of the mix contest. Yay! Before we get into actually revealing the results and listening to a bunch of this awesome stuff, couple things I want to say. I learned a lot about doing a mix contest. This was my first one. And I got some things wrong. First of which was that I gave a very, very vague deadline by which people should submit their mixes. I apologize for that, and now I understand. I need to be very clear about that, an exact day and time when the mixes should be in by. So people were emailing in mixes on Halloween, which was the last day, and I sort of cut it off like that morning. Just so you know, I did download all those, anything that was emailed that day. By the time it was Halloween evening, I was off doing Halloween stuff, being Louis Tully from Ghostbusters that night. But anything that got emailed during that day, I did download. Actually, I downloaded some stuff that evening as well. And it was good because I think, pretty sure that one of the ones that came in as an email that day was one of the winners. So it was important to do that. Again, I apologize. I did listen to everything that got emailed, and I apologize for anybody that just missed it because of, my vagueness. So I will definitely get that right next time. We got to do another one of these. It was super fun. So I'll do better on that. And then I think it also is going to make more sense to really just have one goal. And in this round, I said you can either try and match the mix or you can try and beat the mix or do your own thing. And I would say at least 95% of the submissions were the beat or do your own thing. There were very few people that were really interested in trying to match the mix. And I get it. That's just sort of a less interesting thing to do. It's probably more fun to just go and mix the way you mix and see what happens, So, we'll probably just stick to one thing, I'll put some stuff out there, everybody can mix, and we'll just try and pick the best ones and celebrate ones that are cool and whatever. The other thing is that I think it's going to be better to try and even the playing field, so I made it available as a Pro Tools session, but also as just raw files. And, I was trying to make everything available, just people wanted the session to check out, and so I wanted to make it available in that way, so people could see how the session was set up and what plugins were used and all of that stuff. You can dig through my session and check it out, But when it translates into being a mix contest, anybody out there that is using Pro Tools, if you're trying to match my mix, has a huge advantage because a bunch of the stuff is already done in there. And really all you have to do is just try and kind of recreate whatever was happening outside of the computer. But all the computer stuff is already finished. And so anybody that was starting with the raw files has a lot more work to do. I don't know if that really mattered to anybody, if just the experience of being able to play with the files and do a mix and whatever, if that was enough, that's great. But, I'm going to try and be a little more organized about how I do this in the future. It was a last minute thought for me, because people were asking to check out the session. I was like, cool, yeah, I'll put it out there. And, you know what, maybe we'll do a mix contest, So I apologize for my inexperience and sort of lack of organization with that. Next time it'll be dialed in better. I think we're going to kind of work up to the actual winners of the two categories on this thing. So I want to start with the honorable mentions because there's a bunch of stuff in there. There were so many cool creative mixes on this and a bunch of stuff that sounds really cool. And so I want to start there, and we'll go through some of this stuff and talk about it. And then we'll get into each category, the what I thought was the best match and what I thought was the best beat my mix. So here we go. Here are some honorable mentions. I'm going to put my headphones on. This time I'm going to try and keep it from getting tangled up in my lav mic. That's been a problem. Okay. So starting off here, this one was real close. This almost would have been the beat my mix. And I'll give the only reason that it sort of tripped me up, okay? And so this is Noah Murata. Check this out, man. It was some very cool creative stuff. The way it starts out is just a really tough, like trashy sound, and then this cool transition into the chorus. I thought this was really creative and cool. Check it out. Man, that just super aggressive, trashy, roomy drum sound. So cool. Cool pull-outs, breaks in there. Transition into the chorus. And then once you're into the chorus, like, it sounds cool. It opens up and sounds like a big, you know, present hi-fi mix. So like all this really kind of trashy lo-fi stuff in the front of it was obviously very intentional and very effective. It just makes a cool transition. And so here's the only reason that this thing didn't get picked is that I would have loved to hear the guitar more in this first part, because the guitar, that, you know, quarter note guitar driving thing is very important, I think, for the momentum of this. And it's just like, I don't feel its momentum enough in that first part. But, you know, that may be having the guitar take a back seat may have opened up room to make the cool, trashy drums happen. But yeah, really, really cool mix. So then I got to throw another one in here. This one I actually pulled off of his YouTube channel. This guy is obviously a friend of mine. We just worked together on a plugin. It's worth checking out. And you should watch his video about this. He decided to pull up the session and participate. I don't think he actually submitted this mix. You know, he said he might under a pseudonym or something. You know, he's a Grammy awarded mixer. So, and we're friends. So I was not going to like have him be a mix winner, but he did a mix of this session incredibly fast, and it's incredibly good. So it's worth checking out. I really recommend checking out his YouTube channel. Yeah, I'll pull it up. But here, check this out. You know, it's just a great, super punchy, in-your-face mix. That's a really great sounding mix. So his name is Jesse Ray, is what he goes by, because he's super cool, very talented dude. I had a great time working with him on the plugin. Okay, yeah, so here is his YouTube channel. Here is the episode. So, I mean, he literally starts from scratch on this thing, and in an hour and 25 minutes, he did that mix. So it's worth checking out. There's some really cool stuff in there. The next honorable mention is, I'm just going to do an initial blanket apology across the board on name pronunciation. If I mess up your name, I apologize. So this is a person named Lesson Dessen, I believe. And this is just another really cool, punchy sounding mix. Check this thing out. Great, punchy low end. Like it's punchy in a really satisfying low endy way. Like, that's a mix that is really, really easy to just turn up super loud, and it's really satisfying when you crank it up in the room. That is a great mix. And then now I kind of want to like just play through a bunch, because some of the differences between these mixes is so extreme. It's so wild. It's just hilarious to go down and actually just kind of go from one to the next, because I can't believe that this is all the same source material, you know? I mean, it's just an unbelievable array of different sounds, you know? It's so cool to hear all of these different takes on stuff. Okay, so let's talk about some of these and what I thought was just kind of interesting and extreme about some of this stuff. Okay, so this one, I was just surprised. There's almost no guitar. It's like all bass, you know. Tons of bass. That is a bass forward mix. This one has almost no bass. So that was very, very interesting. Interesting choice. So, but this also, the drum sound is really cool on this. That drum sound in the chorus is so cool. That really crunchy, roomy snare sound is really awesome. And even when it gets into the chorus, I'm not sure if the bass is on there. And so it's an interesting choice to just not use the bass. Okay, but that one, the drum sound was so cool. We should definitely, let's see, acknowledge this. So, mix contest YB 9 Savage. Is what this file is labeled as. Yeah, so hopefully you know who you are. Okay, so then this one was cool because they chopped up the guitar in a cool way. So this is Michael Delayla maybe? Michael Delayla. I really like this these editing choices. This was really cool. Really cool. Just that verse, you know, evolves in a really cool way. It develops in a really cool way. Okay, this one was all about guitar panning. I thought this was a cool approach. So this was Benoit Charbonnier, I think. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Cool guitar panning there. Okay, and so this one had a really cool transition into the chorus. So I'll start a little closer. And there's a specific reason for that. Cool idea, you know, that first bar sort of stripped down, and it's reminiscent of the Queen song No One Knows. If you remember, the first bar of that chorus where it's going dun 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 dun, and then everything really kicks in, and so it kind of holds back a little bit in the beginning of the chorus, and this was a cool way to do that as well. So this was Darius Papak, very cool. Okay, so this one is really tough sounding. I think there's like an octaver on the bass, and it just sounds crazy and awesome. So this is Jimmy Giga. Check this out. That is a huge transition into that chorus, man. A lot of extra distortion on those guitars and stuff. Okay, so yeah, so that was, Jimmy Giga. Okay, yeah, so these are crazy sounding drums. Just like all of the mid-range removed from the drums on this. A very, very extreme approach. And then there's some, there was like a weird computer voice at the beginning here.
Ladies and gentlemen, Eric Valentine.
Yeah. Also, a low octave on the bass. really tough sounding. It's an interesting approach, you know. I tend to hear this stuff, and so this is Mark Wilhelm that did that, more on like hardcore stuff, where the drums are super scooped out to create a huge amount of space for the guitars, you know. And so the drums are, it's just like a bright attack, a little bit of low end attached to it, you know, for both the kick and the snare drum, and just leave tons of space for everything else, you know. But yeah, cool approach, and that octave bass thing again. Okay, so this one was more like remix style, and so there's definitely drum samples being used, and a bunch of cool filtering on the bass, you know, all that kind of stuff. Kind of almost more of like a craft work approach or something. Nice transition. So that was Jaakko Luomanen. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right, but cool sort of remix style there. Okay, some people actually added stuff to the track, which was fun, you know. So this one I think has an additional lead guitar. Starts with just the DI. Some cool added lead guitar in there. So that is Sean Beresford. I liked that one. That was cool. Okay, now this is really remixy, and the person who did this, which is Felipe Scalone, says that everything that you're hearing was created from what was in the session. So there's no extra instruments or keyboards or anything like that. It was all just processing what was recorded in the session. Cool drum sound. Very transformative. That's cool. Really featuring the major third on that root chord, and then with the dominant 7. Very cool. I don't know how all of that was done, but very cool. Okay, so then we have, what is this? Okay, this one was interesting to me. So this is Alan Halverson, and so like one of the things that I'm sort of always battling when I'm shaping a drum sound is trying to get the snare drum to be more of like the punch of the snare, and it's good to have a little bit of that rasp of the bottom, you know, the snares on that bottom head, but I only want enough so you know it's a snare drum, and that sort of like raspy, fizzy sound can sort of steal from the punch of the snare drum. And this version, it sounds like the bottom snare was accentuated as much as humanly possible, and I didn't even know it was possible to do it this much, and it was just kind of amazing to me. So check this out. I mean, it's a cool sound, and it's ironic to me because like I'm always struggling to try and minimize that, and here it is being sort of, brought out to the front. There's just so many different ways to do this. Okay, this next one, I had to mention, these could be the punchiest sounding drums I've ever heard in my life. They're just impossibly punchy. This is so cool. Man, those are some hard-hitting drums right there. That is impressive. So that is Milan Leon. Nice work on those punchy-ass drums. Okay, so then this was a really cool remix. I think the person who did this knew that there's no way this wasn't going to get played just because of my obsession with Led Zeppelin. So it's titled When the Barefoot Breaks. And the person's name is Poika Oma. Okay, check this out. Re-edited the drums to be When the Levee Breaks. Man, I just thought that was super creative, and of course it satisfies all of my Zeppelin obsession needs there. So that was a cool choice, and well done. Like re-editing the drums to play that pattern. Yeah, I mean, because I'm not even sure how that happened, but must have pulled stuff from the chorus, I guess. The other thing I was delighted to discover is that some people chose to add vocals to this song, which was awesome. So this one, okay, this is, what's the name here? Oh, the person's name is not in the title, so unfortunately, but you'll know who you are. You're the only one that did this. And so the version is titled Feel Good Hit of the Winter. and I'm gonna deem this one best Josh Homme impersonation.
Walk away for a day if you wanna. Take a puff, take a drink or a pill. Stroll along to the song of the summer. Nicotine volume, Vicodin fill. Marijuana's another Molly booze from the still. It all makes me feel like I'm gonna dive off the deep and go insane. I'll just take anything I wanna, like cocaine. Now the fun has been.
Yeah, obviously borrowing lyrics from Feel Good Hit of the Summer. So nice Josh imitation there. Whoever you are, I apologize that I don't have your name. One more with vocals. So this one is titled Everybody Knows instead of No One Knows, and was done by Adam Watts. And so this is the one, they sent it two ways. This is the one where it's the mix they did with the vocals they did. So check this one out.
I don't want to sing this song.
You curse my ocean when your desert is to blame. Refusing water while you bleed. I could be wrong, I say it's you, you say it's me. Yeah, nothing and everything at once. Everybody knows.
Yeah, it's really cool. Yeah, nice, powerful voice. Some cool harmonies. You know, it was really fun to hear that. So nicely done there, Adam Watts. Okay, so those are all the honorable mentions. And, you know, here again is all of the stuff. There was just so much to listen to. And yeah, you can see there's 255 tracks by the time you get to the bottom there. And thank you again, everybody, for taking the time to play with these tracks and come up with a mix and send stuff in. So now we're going to get into the winners in each of the two categories. So we'll start with the match. The winner of the Match the Mix category is a really wonderful person named Manuel Tomas. And let's listen first. And then he was nice enough to send in a video so we can learn a little bit about who he is. He also sent in his Pro Tools session. We're going to be able to look at what he did on this thing. But check this out. It is really impressive. And the guitars sound identical. It's really close. Really good job on the drum compression. So there's mine. I have a little more high mids in the heavy guitar. But the match on the drum compression is so good. Okay, so that's Manuel Tomas. Amazing job on matching stuff up. And he actually acknowledged, like, he struggled with trying to get the guitar EQ exactly the same for the heavy guitars, but the drums and bass and the verse section were, like, there was a certain point where I was thinking, like, did this guy just upload my mix and say that he remixed it, you know, when I was first listening to it, because they sound so close. But he really did mix this, and we'll check out the session in a second. But first, let's meet Manuel Tomas.
Hello, Eric. It's Manuel Tomas. First of all, thank you for doing this, sharing your knowledge with all these videos that you've done so far. I mean, it's. I think I speak on behalf of the whole community that we really admire your work. And we're so lucky to be able to see how you do things and how you understand sound and how you approach it. I mean, very lucky, and thank you so much for doing that. On the other hand, I'm from Valencia, Spain, and as you have seen on the news, probably, we've been hit by a devastating flood here. It's a chaos out there. I've been lucky that this area hasn't got hit, but all the surrounding areas are devastated. And there are thousands of people working there, helping. We're getting food to the towns, we're cleaning supplies, everything we can to help to mitigate this chaos. And so you asked me to talk about myself. I'm not going to do that. I don't feel comfortable doing that in this situation. I will show you my studio. This is a mix room. It's in the basement of my house. And this is what I use. I use the Genelec 1031s as the only speakers I use these days, in combination with a Triumph Nova, which is a room correction that you may know, and it does something unbelievable. I mean, it's the first time that I hear low end in phase in a room. It's hard to describe, but it helps you a lot. I realize that half of the time that you're mixing, you're fixing your room acoustics. Anyway, that's something I wanted to share. And that's pretty much it. I wanted to say hi to Andrew Sheps. I was his assistant when I was in LA in 2010 or before, and we're still friends. Just want to say hi, and thank you so much for learning from guys like you. That sorry, my lack of vocabulary, but it's the shit. Thank you. Bye.
Okay, so there's Manuel, obviously really wonderful person. And if you haven't seen or heard about what's going on in Spain, it is insane. Unbelievable destruction there. I have some, experience with that. There's been 2 years in a row, devastating flooding here in Vermont. Our property got hit with it in July. But what I went through was nothing compared to what so many other people are really struggling with. And I get it. It's like Manuel's not really feeling like this is a great time for him to go, hey, check out how awesome I am, when all these people are really struggling. But I appreciate you sharing the video and, getting on camera, letting us know who you are. And also, obviously, Andrew is a lovely person. I'm so happy to hear that you're able to work with him for a long time. I'm sure there's plenty to be gained being around him. And I don't know if Andrew is, watches closely what happens on my YouTube world, but I'll pass this on to him, make sure he receives the hello from you. Okay, so let's check out Manuel's session. So here we are. Manuel did me the favor of paring this down to just the stuff that he used, which was all the analog versions. And, it stands to reason, like, the analog versions are somewhat pre-mixed compared to the digital versions. I think some of you were excited to take on the challenge of starting way back at the very beginning with no tape machines and none of my outboard processing, none of that stuff, and see if you can get all the way, to the end of trying to match this. That is a challenging thing to take on for sure. And I think, when I initiated this, I was imagining people working from, I think I mentioned this before, but working from the analog tracks, that's, I think, is a more realistic proposition. Because, when I sent the session and it didn't have all of my outboard mixing stuff, and you listen to it, it's like, well, that doesn't sound like the thing that, was getting played. And so, so like that part of it, I think, is doable. And folks like Manuel got very, very close. So here we go. Let's check this out. So he left off the NS10 stuff, same as I did. And a lot of this initial processing, I believe, is the same as it was in the session. And he only was replacing whatever mixing was going on outside of the computer, just challenging enough, but was able to take advantage of, all of the settings that came with the Pro Tools session. So here's the kick drum. And so this is the one that's more high passed, more for the attack. All these settings are the same as what I had in the session. Okay, he's doing the same keyed gating using bus 5. So here's the kick key going to bus 5. Shows up there on the key input. And so this was designed to just be low end for the kick drum. There's a little timing offset to try and help with the phasing. 2 of them come together like that. So I believe all the snares, all of this stuff is the same. If you're trying to match the mix, it would make sense to leave all of this. Yeah, this is all the same. So I'm just going to kind of breeze through all of this. And so this is, this kit center mic. This is this CMV3 microphone, famously extremely very present sounding microphone. I'm actually sort of managing that a little bit. Okay, so here is one side of the drum kit mic. This is a C12A. And then this is the toms that were isolated out. I think that's probably the same. Not totally sure about that, but yeah. Here's the right side of the kit. And then the tom mic. There it is. Okay, the room mics. Here's me just trying to make them more hi-fi. This is the same. And then, okay, then here's the cymbals. Okay, yeah, these didn't get EQ'd. They got EQ'd heavily when they went through the tape machine. Yeah, so all of this stuff is the same. Okay, so then he ultimately ended up having to commit his main drum bus because it was being compressed with an external compressor, Focusrite Red 3. And so then all the drum stuff, if I solo all of this together with the committed part, this is what it sounds like. It sounds a lot like, you know, where I had the drums. And so I think the Red 3 was a cool, you know, substitution for the 1176s that I had on the drum mix. So there's also a bunch of processing on this drum bus way down here. And so there was, you know, this Focusrite Red 3 compression that happens here, but that's getting blended with some uncompressed drum information here, and then the whole thing gets processed down here. Let's take a closer listen to what that's about. I'm just gonna isolate the drums for a second. So the Studer 800 tape emulation. 2 of them. Wow. Cool, and this is kind of more of everything. So more lows, more highs, and a more pointed, you know, more 2.3K in there. A little limiting going on, L1. So a selective compression on the kick drum. And a little expanding in the high end. And then taking away a little harshness here. So that's a pretty big difference, man. Wow, it's cool to hear how the drums just expand. You know, these two add such cool thickness to them. The 2 tape machine emulations. Nice presence there. Yeah, I don't know that this is actually doing anything. I don't see it triggering. Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't look like it's triggering any compression or limiting. Okay, cool. So that's an important part of the drum world there. Okay, so then on the bass, there's a bass DI. This stuff is bypassed on here. So maybe there was an experiment done there and then left it off. It looks like all of this is the same as what I had, I believe. And so it goes to this bass bus, and then it goes down to a bus here, and it looks like there's some EQ going on here, because I believe I was EQing the bass outside of the computer and had a tiny bit of compression, and it looks like he opted to not put any compression on the bass blend. But it was minute. It was like a dB or 2 of compression on there. Feels good. Okay, so then there's the main guitar, and so it looks like this got committed as well. And he must have used some sort of outboard compressor or some sort of outboard processing on this. So on my mix, I was using this EMI, Zener diode style compressor. I don't know what he used externally for this, but it got committed. So this was something happened in the analog world on this. But all of this stuff, I believe, is the same as what I had. Yeah. Yeah, there's just a couple things that had phase reverses on them, but nothing got processed on this guitar after the analog stuff that I did. Okay, so then heavy guitars. And so this might be where things got tangled up with the guitars, because I think on mine, I don't think I was using a bunch of microphones for the heavy guitar. Maybe I'm wrong about that. I'd have to check. But yeah, so a couple EQ moves here. Boosting some 70 hertz down here, some 3K there, make it a little more aggressive. And then these are some, bold moves here. So pulling out some of the cloudy, 200 hertz stuff, some more low mids, and that's what it sounded like, in the comparison between the two, that these were EQ'd to be a little, the mid-range that was being emphasized was a little lower, and pulling out a bunch of the 1K that I thought, was sort of jumping out more on the way I EQ the guitars. So that's the one on the left. Okay, and then here's the guitar on the right. That sounds cool. Some subtle EQ moves there. A little extra distortion on there. Okay, compression with the arouser. And I believe on mine, I use the DBX 160s to get that impact when they first come in. And then a little more mid-range tweaking. This similar move of tucking in the 1.5 and emphasizing more this sort of like 600 range. So then all of it together. Okay, this was interesting. So on my mix, I had a DCL 200 on there, and it's going through, some tube stuff and these old RCA preamps and at various stages, and adds a little color and girth to things. And so on the overall mix, Manuel put this Neve 33609 emulation on here. And I remember when I pulled this session up earlier, I was turning this thing on and off, and this thing is cool sounding. Check this out. That is cool sounding, and I've ignored this in the past, and I'm going to stop doing that. I'm going to give this thing another chance in my world, because what is really interesting to me about this compressor plugin is what it does to the low end, and it's much more noticeable in the verse than in the chorus. But listen for the low end when I turn this thing on and off. It is pretty incredible. Man, it just adds some really cool girth to the low end. So yeah, I just hadn't experienced that with this thing before. That is cool. So I believe that's the whole thing. and then it ends up here. So we're monitoring it right here, right now. And I put my final mix processing on there, so we could hear it with that. And then here is his printed mix. Yeah. Man, that is a good match, and happy to learn about some of this cool stuff. Really happy to get reacquainted with this plugin. I am going to experiment with that in the future. So thank you again, Manuel Tomas, for taking the time to do this and submitting it and sharing, how you approached this and letting us get to know you a little bit. So let's now move on to the beat part of this. This one is interesting. So I'm just going to start with the Pro Tools session. They were nice enough to send the Pro Tools session so we can check this out, and there are some really, really cool tricks going on here. So the winner of the Beat My Mix is a gentleman named Haris Karantzas. I think I'm pronouncing that right-ish. And so let's listen to the mix a little bit. It's really good. This is, definitely in the same, it's the same general approach as my mix, but some very different, specific different choices that were made. And I think they were all good. I gotta say it. I think this mix is better than mine. Check this out. That just sounds great. Very effortless. Everything just sits right in its spot and just sounds right. So let's meet Haris.
Hi, Eric. Hi, everybody. Thank you for giving us this opportunity to work on your track. Really cool. I'm really excited I won this thing. Had tons of fun and learned a lot trying to beat the mix. It was really a really good mix. It wasn't easy at all. So a bit about myself. I'm Greek. I live in Berlin. I'm a mixer, guitar player, producer. You can find my work on my website. That's hariskarantzas.com. And you can follow me on Instagram. It's at hariskarantzas. I'm going to show you my very humble setup, my very humble and very messy setup. So here it is. Ta-da! So I'm in the box, so I don't have any analog gear. I use these KRK V6s and these Neumann KH120. Some acoustic treatment I made. And this is my Apollo 4 interface. Some amps. Oh, that's the PV Decade, actually. There it is. I got this because I saw it in the Queen's video. That's a weird instrument I've been getting into lately. Lyre harp. These are some of my guitars. I'm recording my own songs at the moment, and I need all of them all the time, so I have them here all the time. And that's where I spend all my day, really. That's Richard Feynman, some stuff I worked on. Yeah, that's all. Thank you, guys.
Man, so cool. I love this whole experience. This is so great. Obviously, really wonderful, just lovely, humble, generous person. Thank you, Haris, for sending in your Pro Tools session. And what I really love about this is how empowering it is. Look at his setup. He's got a laptop and a couple of, near field monitors. No analog output gear at all. I got all of this crap in here. And this guy came up with a mix that I think sounds better than mine. I think that's just incredible. It's like the tools are never as important as how they're used. I've said it a bunch of times before, but man, this is just confirmation of it. And he is really good. So again, he's working from the analog tracks, which I think was always my intention that everybody would work from those. Kudos to all you that started with the digital stuff and, took on that challenge. And so I think it's expected that this stuff is going to end up in a place that sounds, more appealing to me because it has a bunch of the work that I did on it already sort of embedded in the tracks. And using this Pro Tools session, there's a bunch of stuff that's already sort of in there, that got kept. And so it's naturally going to sort of end up in a place that is closer to the way I want to hear it. Not surprisingly, I ended up, picking 2 submissions that use that approach. We're not going to do it this way next time. And, I think it'll make more sense for everybody. Okay. So again, I think a lot of this early processing is the same. Yep. That looks the same. That's the same. Yep. All that. So all this stuff on the kick drum is the same. Okay. But he added this, and this is what's interesting about it. So he's basically taking somebody else's mix, my mix, and making these refinements to it to try and improve on it. And that can be a really difficult thing to do. And in this case, I think he really achieved it. And there's some things in here that were really interesting to me that I definitely would not do. And it was, illuminating for me to see how this mix ultimately benefited from this stuff. So the big difference here, I think that I had done this. I don't know. Maybe not. This might be him. But this is what's really different, is this choice here. So here's the kick drum. And so you can hear this plugin adding this third order harmonic to the kick drum. When I listen to it by itself, it sounds a little more blown out to me. And when I listen by itself, I would go, oh, I don't want to do that. But when you hear it in context, it makes the kick drum sound thicker, and it makes the kick drum have a better presence across the board, in the mix, like a presence in sort of a more low mid-range, instead of the kick drum just being focused more in the lows, in a way that ultimately didn't interfere with anything else. It just made the mix feel a little more complete sounding. And when I A/B the two, I felt like my mix actually was a little light in some areas where there were frequencies that weren't really being supported. And it was moves like this on his mix that I think actually really made it happen. So check this out. So there it is again by itself. And without it, you don't hear as much of that sort of blown out third order harmonic. Check it out in context. It's really interesting. It just fills in this range that just, wasn't being supported. It's a really cool choice, and it makes this mix sound more complete, just fuller and more finished sounding. Really good. A bunch of this stuff is the same, it's just the same EQ moves on here, on my analog process stuff. Yeah, all this looks the same. Yeah, there's the room stuff. And then, yeah, I don't know if I did that. It's also a good choice. This would definitely mess with the guitar a little bit. Yeah, just an unneeded sort of boomy, low frequency on the cymbal. Just eating up space, where the guitars might want to be. Okay, so then on the cymbals, tape machine emulation here. So let's see what's going on with this. That seems pretty subtle to me. I'm not hearing a huge difference there. Okay, and then here's a little tuck at 4K-ish. It's a good move. It just sweetens up the cymbals a little bit. And so all of that kind of aggressive 4K energy that's in the guitars is not competing with the cymbals. The cymbals end up sort of a little silkier sitting on top there. Okay, so then there's a bunch of drum bus stuff. I think this trim was in there already. And so, okay, so he's using the Universal Audio plug-in version of the 1176s that I use, which are blackface, D or E series 1176 LNs. And so, okay, so let's sew up all the drums. Yeah. Yeah, that adds a nice little smack on there. And then it looks like a little extra happened here, a little extra compression here. Okay, so now you really hear the difference. So that's what the 1176s are doing. The API is a little more subtle. But adds a little more impact. It's also a nice choice. Okay, now this here is one of the really cool things when I went through this earlier. So he creates this additional sort of parallel bus called kick, snare, cut. And it looks like he uses this, so he's sending all of this stuff there and varying them. Let's see if there's any specific, yeah, so there's some specific choices being made here. So most of it is just unity. And turn down the amount of the kick drum that's going there quite a bit. And turn down the snare drum a little bit. And so a lot of this is just, coming from the mics that were sort of around the drum kit. And in this case, it's easy to do that because the cymbals are recorded separately. So all of these mics are going to be just kick drum, snare drum, and a little bit of the toms in there. And so all of that stuff goes to this parallel bus that doesn't get compressed with all of this, right? Right, yeah, because it would have to go to drum bus, and it actually goes to all drums, which is here. We'll see what's on that. But check this out. That's without it. There it is with it. And he's got this EQ on there. 8 dB of 1K, which gets quite pointed on this EQ. And it just gives the drums that really awesome mid-range presence and bark to them. It's a really cool trick. And I've done things similar to this, but not really in this way. And this is more of sort of like a global, I've created parallel buses that are just like tons of mid-range that I can use to add in on the snare drum. I would do it more specifically for the snare drum, but this thing of doing it sort of across the board, especially when it's not going to affect the cymbals or other drum ambiances, is pretty incredible. Really, really cool trick. So then there's a little bit of uncompressed drum information. So that is this same bus, the drum bus, showing up here, just uncompressed, basically a version that doesn't have the 1176 and the API. And so I guess, this looks like it's the same bus that I created, and because it has my same push, I think on the downbeat there. And it also looks like this snare cut, kick snare cut, meaning make the kick and snare cut through more, gets turned down a little bit in this initial verse and then gets boosted in the chorus. So when all the guitars and everything comes in, there's this extra mid-range presence that gets brought in on the drums. It's a very cool trick. Okay, so all of that ends up going to the all drums bus. Okay, there's that one. I know that plugin. And so what is he got going on here? Okay, very slow attack. So this is variable 4. And fastest release setting for this. But when you go to variable 4, both the attack and the release get slowed down quite a bit. And then a little bit slower on the attack. And this looks relatively subtle. Yeah, dB.5 compression. Made up the gain there. Oh, and it's paralleled here. So we're not hearing 100% of what this is doing. Didn't adjust the overall harmonic distortion. That's without it. Yeah, just a little, brings out the ambience, brings the ambience forward a little bit, makes it a little more aggressive sounding. And some cool dynamic EQ moves here. So a little more 1K, a little more like 65 hertz that's happening dynamically, so it'll punch more, expanding that frequency for the kick drum. And then managing some of the really bright clickiness in there. Yeah. It's just really helping the drums be focused more with their fundamental sort of low-end punch. The snare drum gets a little more mid-range, the kick drum gets a little punchier. So cool choices there. Okay, let's check out the bass guitar. So there's some interesting stuff going on here that was definitely not in my mix. There's 2 versions of the DI now. SPL Transient Designer, so it's all the way wet. Attack is turned up a fair amount, 6 dB of additional transient. And then some tape machine stuff going on. Okay, yeah, it's a little bit subtle, but still noticeable. That's nice. It makes it just sound more balanced harmonically. And then another thing here that he's labeled bass attack. This was definitely not in my mix. So, okay, this thing again. oxide. So he's really saturating it with this oxide tape plugin. Ton of mid-range. More of this. Yeah, also nice balancing of the overtones there. So there's I think that EQ is the same. And this, I don't remember if that was a move that I did. That's a good choice. Okay, here's a duplicate of the magnetone, or no. Oh, this is the other microphone, the other magnetone microphone. I don't even know if I used that mic. Okay, attack all the way up. It's cool. And smoothing it out a little bit so it doesn't maybe, mess with the guitar so much. So there's a room sound. There's nothing on there. But all this stuff is sending to a bass bus of some sort. There's the decade. This looks like my EQ moves, maybe. I think that's the same, not sure. Okay, so all this stuff is going to bass bus, which gets this on it, and I think on the bus I had an Altec, and so this is a similar type tube compressor, a plug-in version to what I had on the bass. Yeah, it thickens it up in a cool way. Cool. This move is especially good. And I seem to remember that there was something like that going on in the analog world on the bass that I did, and this too. Yeah. So I think this is maybe something similar to what I was doing with, I think, the Undertone 500 series EQs on this bus. And then he has this additional thing. And this gets turned up in the chorus. Wow, that's cool. So what is he doing? Oh, so the drive is turned up a bunch. And turning up a bunch more sort of like high mid stuff. This is probably around 2K somewhere. No compression. So this is all just for this distortion. And EQ. So let's see what this does. Really cool presence on there. Okay, so then 550A. So this is even more mid-range, 1.5K. Some more surgical moves here. Okay, we'll see what all this is. Some limiting to catch any real aberrant peaks. I mean, with all of that SPL transient designer stuff, you could get some crazy peaks that jump out here and there. Some more very surgical little tucking of frequencies going on here. And then, interesting, huh? Wow. Yeah, so he's really evening out some specific frequencies. Yeah. I mean, there's some very specific surgical stuff going on in here. This is some real mixing going on, you know? Okay. So let's see what each of these is doing. Okay, so here's 4 dB of 1.5K. It's great. So this yeah, it's sort of balancing out some frequency ranges there. I don't really see this doing anything. It's probably not audible where we're at. And then this crazy thing. Huh, interesting. So in context, so yeah, this one, from what I'm hearing, might be a little too aggressive. Like, yeah, I think I don't mind the extra thickness in the bass on those couple of notes, but it does help sort of even it all out a little bit. So then I want to go back here and I think that's one of the coolest things that happened with the bass is what was done with these DIs. Like, they really add this focus and kind of clarity to the bass without, I don't think it really compromised the toughness of it. Yeah, it's cool. I would maybe balance these a tiny bit different, but they add so much to just the clarity and focus of the bass. And now that I'm turning them on and off, I can tell that I miss a little bit of the thickness of the fuzzy bass, but yeah, overall it just sits so good in there. It's really cool. Okay, so that was the bass. So now let's see what happened with these guitars. Okay, some precision time-aligned stuff going on here. Huh, I don't remember doing that. No, I definitely didn't do that. Okay, so adjusting the phase. cool choices there. It definitely, brings out a clarity and focus in the guitar that, wasn't really there. Especially that. Yeah, with the room mics. Yeah, so he's making them later. And it's cool. Okay, a move here. I don't think that was part of my thing. Oh, and here's some more of this stuff. That's cool. I'm pulling out some of this wop, wop, wop stuff there. Okay, there's a whole lot going on in this guitar bus. So let's see what's going on with all this. So that's cool. I think I was EQing these guitars in the analog world, and so he's actually doing, expanding this, whatever it's 1K, 900 hertz ish stuff, 930 hertz. It's great. That's really cool. I'm definitely gonna play with that in the future. Okay, oxide. Adding some cool life and harmonic balance to this. Just feels more energized and cool there. Okay, this little guy. Taking out some lows. A little bit of 5.6K. That's cool. Tightens them up a little bit. Some more strategic shaping in the mid-range. So kind of undoing some of what the other stuff is doing. Okay, a little more tape emulation. Yeah. Yep, 160. And then just a level offset. Okay, so let's do this. That's a big difference. Man, that just makes the guitar sit so good. Just the attention to the mid-range on all of this stuff, on the drums, on the bass, on the guitars, like there is really, really excellent choices being made there in the mid-range. Okay, so now we get into the heavy guitars. Let's see what happened here. Oh, and there's some sort of, this is a Valhalla thing that was committed. Okay. So in the chorus section, it just sort of, smears the stereo image a little bit, adds a little modulation to it. And yeah, it just makes it sort of a more even stereo thing. That's what it was. It's cool. Okay, so he was able to really narrow down to specific mics that he liked. I think this was the mic that I used. Yeah, I seem to remember I ended up narrowing it down to one thing and just using, yeah, I can't remember now, but okay. Okay, yeah, boosting a little mid-range. Cool. So MEQ5. So boosting a little 700, getting rid of a bunch of 200, and boosting 4K. DBX 160, you know, a plug-in version of what was used on my mix. Okay, and then just a tiny little moves here. Okay, so then a little bit of 70 hertz, a little bit of 3K in there. So that was the original sound. That's a big deal there. All great choices. This one was left unchanged. Oh, but it does get processed here. So EQing out this 280 hertz. Yep. Okay, yeah, pulling out a little 200 there. And then this will be the 160. Yep. So in context, let's hear the guitars. Man, feels great. It's just so clear, you know, like the guitars are so specific in their place, you know, and yeah, everything has just got its place and they all add up to just make a really nice, complete, full sound. Okay, so then two bus, whole lot going on here. Okay, so here's the same low-endy thing that I did. I'll go back a little bit. That's cool. A little bit extra highs, a little extra lows. And so this might be similar to what I was doing with the Langevin EQs. Yeah. There's the stereo widening thing, so we kept that on there. Oh, this thing, that's familiar. Again, variable 4. Slow attack time. That's a very slow attack time on variable 4 and slowing it down there. Fastest release. Harmonic distortion turned all the way down, but this time it's fully 100% mix. Yeah, adds a little bit of harmonic, you know, yumminess there. And then just looks like a tiny little bit of multiband on there. Nice. Okay. Massive passive. Here's something I don't really use. Okay, so opening up the tops, like some airy kind of 12K stuff way up there. Yeah. That's cool. Has some nice sheen on there. Okay, and then this looks like, I've never used this before. Brainworks, their version of like a L1, L2 type limiter thing. Yeah, so you just add a couple dB of level. Looks like it's barely doing anything. Let's see if it does something here. Okay, yeah, a little bit there. So I think that's everything. Yeah, here it's just a little gain adjustment I did to match levels. And then this was to see a match level. So the volume difference between the verse and the chorus was different on these mixes. So the jump in volume on my mix is a little bit more than Haris's mix. So, but here we'll do some A-Bing here. I love the space that he created on that guitar. My version sounds kind of phasier. It's just a fucking good ass mix, man. There's no two ways about it. All those choices, there's some very specific, very surgical things that are happening. That's where you can really get yourself into trouble, and they're all good choices. So well done on that. So obviously, Haris already has the Unfairchild plugin, so he's opting to get the a Vericap cable. I will send that out to him, and Manuel opted to get the plug-in, so I'm going to send him, a license for that. But there it is, man. This was incredible. It's the thing about this whole process that's been amazing for me the whole time. Like, I love sharing what I do and all that, but through comments and just the discussion with everybody, I always learn stuff as well. And in this instance, I'm really learning some stuff because that is a great mix. And there's some really, really cool choices being made in there. And, some very effective use of plugins, like tape machine plugins and things that I've been very dismissive to, like I have a real tape machine and I always just assume that thing's always better, But there's some moments in here where it's like, those things really work and they can really be effective to do some really cool sounding stuff. End up with a mix that just sounds really effortless and full and balanced and musical and clear and punchy, like really, really great. So, so there it is. The mix contest was super fun. I hope everybody enjoyed it. We'll definitely do another one of these for sure. And whenever I get some more source material that we can do, and I'm gonna have to step up my game here. There's some really, really talented people out there, and I very much appreciate everybody participating in this and taking the time, to dig through it, putting up with, my disorganization and some of the mistakes that I made along the way. Everything will go better next time, and. We'll do another one of these. It was super fun. So thanks for watching. Thanks for participating. I'll see you next time. Bye.